friend of mine and I got into it about Iron Man. We're nerds, it happened. My friend was quite, in his words, ambivalent about the character Tony Stark, whose superpower, like Bruce Wayne's Batman, is that he's rich. My friend sees him as someone for whom exaggerated privilege allows him to, in Stark's words, to successfully privatize world peace. My friend said, like all superheroes, Stark is a fascist. See The Watchmen, The Boys, or The Punisher, any number of titles that point out that despite the good intentions of our superheroes, they operate outside the law and take the law into their own hands and are therefore dangerous. I wanted to point out that, well, it's not as bad as all that. You can't take them that seriously. There has to be something good said for them. But this was years before Tony Stark sacrificed himself to save us all. And I can think of another guy who's said to have done that. But the point I was making was that there is something good about Tony Stark which we should, point out. That the first suit of armor that Iron Man built for himself was not the robotic suit. And it wasn't the sentient AI that helps him pilot it. It wasn't the weapons he created and modified to save the world, to defeat evil. The first suit Tony Stark built was the arc reactor for his heart. The letter to the Thessalonians speaks of a breastplate of faith and love, a helmet of the hope of salvation. This image of abstracted armor, that the armor of the followers of God would not be steel or bronze or ceramic polymers and Kevlar. It would be something else that would mark them as distinct and protect their very hearts. Paul, in the letter to the Romans, speaks of putting aside the deeds of darkness and putting on the armor of light. The letter to the Ephesians speaks of the full armor of God, a belt of truth, a breastplate of righteousness, a shield of faith, a helmet of salvation, and a sword of the Spirit, which was not a sword of a weapon, but was the very word of God. These letters all build on the testament of the Hebrew Scriptures that righteousness was like a breastplate and a helmet of salvation to be put on the head of the Messiah. The Book of Wisdom speaks of zeal as armor, and righteousness as a breastplate, justice as your helmet, holiness as your shield, and stern wrath at evil as a sword. The first suit of armor we build is for our hearts. Each of these children today does what was done for us in baptism. Their hearts get armored. They are washed clean and initiated into the saints, another group of superheroes, not known for taking the law into their own hands, but faith and hope and love into their hands. The sacraments of baptism and Eucharist are our armor in a world of darkness and hate. The first suit we build, the suit we keep up, is for our hearts. And we do have to armor our hearts. Because we look at these prophecies of the end time, both in our letter and the prophecies of Zephaniah, and even by Jesus himself. And we look forward to a dark, dark day. But anyone who's looking around knows that the day has already arrived. A day of wrath, a day of distress, a day of anguish, a day of ruin and devastation, a day of darkness and gloom, clouds and thick darkness, a day of trumpet blast and battle cry against fortified cities and against lofty battlements, distress upon people, and they walk around like the blind. It's a dark, dark world. And we might be scared, that day is coming. It's here. We have a world of ruin and devastation, of battle cry against fortified cities and against lofty battlements. We know terrorism, we know hate, we know bigotry, we know war. It takes a lot to get up in the morning and meet it. We could be tempted to bury our talent. Burying your money was a common way to, it was a safe. You find a convenient place in X marks the spot, you bury it to keep it from thieves. Or you could make the decision to take your talent, to take that vulnerable, loving heart out into the world that needs it so much. And that takes armor. It takes people. And that's what we're doing today. The sacraments are our armor. Baptism is full initiation into the Christian life. It's not something you can do for yourself. It's something a church and God through that church does with you. It's not something you choose. You can't baptize yourself. I can't jump into an ocean and just pour water over myself, as fun as that would be. If baptism is instead freely recognizing something God did, is doing, and will continue to do in the future. It's something we do with one another. It's something we do for our children, knowing that they will need this armor. They will need to know what faith and hope and love are if they're to meet a world that doesn't know those things. In our Eucharist, we are fed. We're rejuvenated. We're given a new heart. Not of steel or bronze or Kevlar, but flesh. One that knows what it is to believe and to hope and to care. And so we put on that breastplate of faith and love, and we put on a helmet of hope and salvation. And we accept these gifts from God. We accept our talents amid a world gone mad. We don't bury who we are. We armor it so that we can share it. This is our season of rooted in abundance, recognizing the power of God in each of our lives, in all of our lives that built this community. And we don't bury that light to save it. We armor it to share it. We are superheroes of a different kind. We're saints. And we add 4 more to our number today. So let's do that.